Okay. Peace, 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 peace. I feel like, okay. This is good. I'm not gonna keep changing nothing. Greetings to you all. This is gonna be a banger. Y'all see me eating something on the side, because this is what I do. Just be authentic through it all. Let's give honor to the source, to the creator, to the most high, whatever you subscribe to. Man, are you guys ready? Are you ready? For those of you that are new, what's up? Peace, greetings. As you can see, yes, I have created another miraculous, memorable, just extravagant masterpiece. As you can see, it does look similar to me. And before I position this right, I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all just a gist on what I'm gonna be talking about. So I'll probably bring it a little closer. Let y'all read that. This is I'm gonna let y'all get a good glimpse of that. I don't know how it's gonna show up on the video. It says repressed emotions, memories, emotional neglect, false accusations, abandonment issues, father wounds, mother wounds, childhood traumas, self-abuse, self-hatred, colorism, depression, structural discrimination. Man, your position is right. Where do I begin? As you can see, this is like pretty much like a, for those of you that aren't familiar, a lot of the art that I create is centered around, I'm so glad I invested into this light. Centered around is healing arts. What you see is a form of something that, again, it's just the confidence in me creating things as such. Let's give honor to our ancestors, known and unknown, those that came before us and paved the way, those that didn't really do much, but, not all of them. Not all your ancestors or people that would, supported what you do. So, again, so the things that you can rewind it back, the things that I read about or noted or spoke, this one is huge. It's really huge. I wasn't sure. I tried to do a video earlier, but I had to do it with the masterpiece. It didn't make sense without the masterpiece. I'm pretty sure a lot of things I just said, probably a lot of you can relate to, repressed emotions or memories. If you don't have knowledge of that, you can look it up. Emotional abuse. And the beauty of this is that what I am called to create around art isn't just centered around, how could I say this? My creation, or what I'm called to create, is trend setting and the courage and confidence that it takes. And let me tell you, I have more to come. The ideas that I come up with stuff is going to be out of this world. It's not of this world, honestly. And with just the transitions that we're in, the cycles that we're in, this for me isn't just about creating. When I create, man, it's so many memories. For one, let's use the topic repressed emotions. There's so many memories, repressed memories, emotions that come up centered around just creating in itself. So as an artist, just creating is just more than just a paintbrush to a canvas. The deeper level of that is you're pretty much transmuting, alchemizing, and channeling memories, emotions, and so many things that goes into this. I cry doing it. I got angry because every single, and these are real band-aids, by the way, every single part of this has a representation that connects to and or reflects my past, my present, my current situation, and healing through and uncovering like those things. And it's very intentional. And the detail it just shows that it's very intentional. And what's so amazing about this is that it shows the muscular like structure of the man in itself. But it's like how I had to do is that these are things that are also internalized. So when you see the cuts and then you see the band-aids over it, but he's looking forward, it's not that I'm showing you my back. It's that I'm turned my back to these very things. But it's an internal wound that I'm healing that people don't see. These are things that I day to day throughout my life, because healing is a lifelong journey that I am maneuvering through and progressing through and still trying to make sense of certain memories, whether they are repressed emotions and or memories that come up that, I'm still trying to process or get clarity over. And with that, the masterpiece looking forward is like, I had an idea. I was like, well, the beauty of like just the blankness is just like a newness. I don't need there to be a sunset or a beach or something like that. I just felt like that was very cliche. And it was suggested, but from someone, I was like, no, because it would pretty much, for me, my perspective would take away from you recognizing the wounds, you recognizing the act, the what I'm trying to depict. And no one can do it better than the artists themselves. So I'm going to the source of that. So, these very things that you see, the scars, some are kind of like fresh. Some of them are like probably still healing, and some of them are leaking because it's like in reality, I've had to face this within myself. And I was expressing this to someone. I was like, man, it just hit me one day. I was like, if I don't face these fears, if I don't face these very things, then I will bleed onto others. And that's the biggest thing about the healing journey. And this is why I do healing arts, is because it's not only what people don't see, it's also what they hide within themselves and are afraid to acknowledge. And a lot of these are my greatest fears when it comes to even acknowledging my childhood traumas, my abandonment issues. That was one of the biggest things, like fears. What else? Another one over here, depression and structural discrimination. Structural discrimination can be like structural racism in corporation, in society, in the government, and so forth, that just has this, there's this lean or favoritism towards said races or cultures of people, and the discrimination against just being who you are, especially being darker in this country or throughout the world, and this depiction on how, the darker man, is automatically frowned upon or looked at it as something that's, dehumanized or something that's devalued, or and not just by society, by the very wounded women that he has been around, and also by people that don't look like him. So a lot of things I speak about is just the courage to even face these fears of those things, and then not ignore them or become numb to them, because that's the thing. My greatest fear was to speak up about said things. And, I always mention in my videos, there's two types of dangerous people. And one is one that knows and don't talk about it, and one that doesn't know and talks about it. So I cannot ignore that the structural discrimination is not a thing in this country or in other countries, when there's so much psychological warfare and so much self-hatred driven towards someone that is darker. It doesn't have to be that way, but it is. And for me to ignore it you know, it's just something I will not let go brushed up under the rug. And as much as we don't want to make it about color, it is, because when you see this masterpiece, you see color. And some people see a darker man, and some people don't even know when it comes to structural internalized racism is a part of structural discrimination and so forth, that people don't even realize they have. And I've dealt with it firsthand. And as much as people, have said that this isn't what it is, it's very much what it is when you look at how people have progressed or wanting to progress in certain areas and certain demographics and certain economic um, how can I say, economically, basically. And it's not to say everyone is like that, but when given certain demographics or environments, I've dealt with it firsthand when applying for said positions. I've researched it, telling someone, like, when you look at people, and you can do your own research on these things, when you look at certain people in said positions and you see the favor lean towards someone that's much lighter, and even in when it comes to certain men, or depending on their skin color or stuff like that, who may have more felony convictions, you can research this and still be able to get more positions or be hired quicker than someone that's darker. So there's a lot of things, again, that I address or I bring up. And again, it's all perspective, but at the same moment, like, it's like the elephant in the room. It can no longer be ignored. And this is the only way that a lot of the guck that will be cleaned out, so we can see what's hidden up under that rug or in that closet. So that's just one of many things. A lot of my other greatest fears is facing abandonment issues. I just even recall childhood memories where I was just told stories about how, recently, not recently, but recently having these discussions with my father, and then hearing childhood stories about how people choosing drugs, substance abuse, rather than choosing their children or choosing the responsibility to uh, be there for them, and those abandonment issues are centered around or highlights the emotional abandonment, physical abandonment, and the list goes on. And a lot of us has dealt with that, and me personally dealing with that has a lot to do with, I had to realize, which leads to self-abuse, and that's a huge one. And I connect those both because in that learning that pattern or being abandoned in whatever said way leads to another one up there in the corner, self-hatred, which is like, first, self-abuse is like you neglect your part of yourself. You neglect parts of yourself that you learned this belief system through other people. And then you get to a certain age and you become aware that the irresponsibility through that said belief system you have rooted, so it's been so rooted deeply within your internal world and within yourself. And then you wondering why certain things aren't progressing, or you wondering why you're questioning yourself, your belief, your everything around who it is you are, which leads to that self-destructive path, self-sabotaging. Self-abuse is like basically self-sabotaging behavior because of these behavior patterns that you have developed from said mother or father, or even just whatever belief system. And that can go even so into depth of even how society try to teaches us like who we should be, how we should be as a man or woman. And so that self-abuse comes in with even how people lean towards substance abuse more than taking care of their well-being. So it's so deeper to where this masterpiece in itself can relate to everyone. But this message is pertaining to a lot to what my own personal experiences, but it can be relatable for those who have and are healing and are just realizing, coming to the self-realization that they have these same this same shit going on, and no one really told them. So that and going back to leading to from self-abuse to self-hatred, is how much our society has breeded and created people who hate themselves. And I mean internally. And I'm gonna get on even the fact of like how there even was times where I would battle between whether, and then what I mean self-hatred is like really being your authentic self, your through integrity rather than trying to be anything like the world, trying to follow the next trend rather than being a trendsetter. So that being said, is I realized like even connecting to basketball, sports, I've had this talk before when I knew that my intuition wasn't saying this is what you should do. But we're gonna do it anyway because I'm more focused on the at that moment younger, more focused on the acceptance or to be embraced if I succeed in said career or whatever path that I feel more driven by others or listening to others rather than myself. So that self-hatred builds because if you don't love yourself, then you're gonna do the opposite of that. And that's the beauty of how I've gotten to even this place of healing that part of myself that even growing up in environments where I knew people hated themselves. When I look back, when I look at the fact of the career, the job, and what they so-called sacrificed, but they never stood up, even in places, they never stood up for something. They just settled or they become complacent. And over time, hatred of those behavior patterns, that belief system that they have been clinging to for so long, that hatred grew within themselves. And they begin to hate themselves. And then, you will see that demonstrated outwardly through other people, through anger, that hatred of keeping that connecting to repressed emotions and memories that they never faced. So the hatred can not just be connected to what they've done, but the mother and father wound, the hatred towards whatever interaction they had with their mother and father. So that resentment, that repressed envy, something I had to realize and learn and let go of because, I was telling someone how I connected that self-hatred to repressed envy. Because, I just feel like they all are connected in a way. Like any type of hatred of self or hatred towards something has to do with your internal world. And I realized I grew up in demographics or people who they had to have a hatred for where they are and what and who they are and what they went through. And then they were projected onto other people. So they would develop this, again, belief system that this is all there is. And so this is why you have a lot of kids who are learning these things from parents who, and caregivers who really don't know who they are. So again, over time, from my experience, without having any type of encouragement, support system, I mean, genuine support system. This is huge for a lot of us. I had the confidence now to not just speak, but the confidence to create from that place where I really don't have to talk, but my art speaks for itself. But I'm grateful enough to have the courage to share it, not just share this, but share it verbally. So again, growing up in environments where there wasn't any type of support, any encouragement, there was a lot of envy or repressed envy. There was a lot of repressed emotions and hidden jealousy. And this is why, someone can progress or become something in a small town or something, but there will be no type of really genuine support. They'll help in ways, but there were deep down, there would be some type of internal conflict with them. And I realized this after like 34 years, 33, 34 years. I was like, wow. Some of us don't even realize like we won't clap for the other person because we don't even know that connection there has a lot to do with our woundedness, has a lot to do with what we've been around. So we're so driven to be independent and not connect that to the interdependence as well. Or that, how that connection, the inner connection is also connected to that outer connection, with other people. So, I used to sit back and wonder like, why people didn't clap for me in certain moments. And it's not that I said I like at a time, not that I needed it, but as I start to grow, it is needed, meaning like the reciprocity in that partnership, in that relationship with your mother or father. And again, I realized that people have this hatred for themselves, this repressed envy and so forth. And having been in said environments, I still was always encouraging, but we don't really know the depths of things until we get in places, in positions where here it is that, you get a glimpse of some type of success or you start to create something. And over time, I started to realize like, well, what is it about me that I'm not receiving this or is it something within myself? And that's the thing I could no longer ignore about me. And it's not that I wouldn't support and encourage people. I really went to the root of myself where, like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I went to the root within myself and realized like, even though I may not be in the position that person is, I still can clap for them. I still can feel good. I've had things where, and this is unknowingly, I'm able to just confess and be honest about this. I've had things come across my feed, social media, and it's something related to what I wanted to do or to expand on, and emotions will come up around it like, man, like, well, they're doing good, but like, I know I can do something better. And it's nothing geared towards he or she like feeling the ways. I had to catch myself, like be aware, like, okay, hold on, where did this come from? And sometimes unknowingly, we don't realize through subconscious programming, through the belief systems we grew up around and in demographics, a lot of things we don't know until we're out of that space. Just as this, like the unfolding of my journey wasn't always this. Again, I grew up in environments where there were religious based, everything everyone would take to church or take to the pastor or take to Jesus or whatever, character, they would take everything. But the thing about what I'm creating is a lot of these things are internalized where all the answers, I don't believe everyone, especially externally, has a lot of answers and can give me clarity on things unless I truly go within. And so that has changed over time. What I realized, like, it's certain things that I have to accept. I have to get clarity of. Only I can do that. No one else can. And so this masterpiece reflects that. A lot of things I feel personally, I cannot go to someone about. A lot of things I have to simply work through or get through that storm and allow those emotions, because that said character of this person, they're not here. They're not here to talk to me about that. Or, a lot of things dealing with, let's see here, childhood traumas. Some things are, I cannot, read this book or certain books religiously to get those answers or to go. They say pray and do all that. It's certain things I'm just like, look, that's your belief, but honestly, either I'm going to have to face these things and transmute it and alchemize it the best way I know how, or simply go to therapy. Because I feel like certain things that have been ignored, there's just been this narrative of like only, like in the country, like only Jesus or only God or certain things have the answer. And my internal belief is that a lot of things are right there within us to accept. When it comes to childhood traumas, there's things I did not want to accept. That was my fear because of the programming, the belief system that I developed is like conflict avoidance, even though I grew up in a conflict driven environment. And so once I was removed, I told myself like I could no longer avoid certain things because it was so much repressed memories, emotions, childhood traumas, things that were coming up. And only I could, either face these things head on or literally go to the said person who inflicted this very pain in certain form. And then when that wasn't an option, it's the greatest thing, knowledge on earth, I feel, and I heard this from an elder, is that, if you heard that term, know thyself to show thyself approved, or is, what was that quote he said? The greatest knowledge on earth is knowledge of self. Like, who knows you better than you? So for me to take something to someone else's, common sense is tell you, like, I got to know me better than me, because how can this person come and try to tell me how to direct my life when I've been given the said tools? I've been given the knowledge and then the wisdom to apply it. But that's the thing about the balance between being with yourself and other people, human interaction. So again, a lot of things I felt that, will it come a point to where therapy is needed? Who knows? Yes. Because I feel like sometimes some people should have went to fucking therapy. Because a lot of us now are at a place like, bro, I just might need therapy. I just might need to really accept, like, a lot of these things that you see up here. Yeah, I pain about it. Yeah, I can accept it. But I realize also that a lot of people that I know has been running from themselves. And for me, I just felt like a lot of people have been taking so much to this said God or said characters, and it don't matter what culture or creed. When in reality, I just feel, and it's none of my business, but honestly, I'm like, there's certain interactions I gotta have with people. When I grew up, in certain things where once I started telling the truth about things that has happened to me, I was outcasted. I was the so-called black sheep. I was pushed away. And guess who has to face with? Guess who got to look in the mirror? Me. Guess who got to face things? Me. No one else. Because I can't sit here and say every time I called upon this person or this and that, they gave me the answer. No, it's certain things that I found solutions. And like I said, I don't have all the answers, but a lot of what you see is a part of the solution. And I feel that that's the beauty of, like, when I look at above all religion is truth. And you see the reflection of the truth that is within me, and then I create it outwardly. And just that frequency or that vibration of authenticity and integrity cannot be threatened, cannot be blackmailed, cannot be, it can be criticized, but at the same moment, it's the peace of accepting who you are. And everyone out here in this world isn't religion. Ancestors were spiritual. People were spiritual. And that's a part of my evolution, was accepting that my belief system didn't just start with religion. That was a part of this lineage. But when you go learn about before, your ancestors dating back and looking at how they operated, they were spiritual beings. They knew that a lot of things they did ritualistically had a lot to do with who they were and what they came here to do, and what brought them peace in a world full of chaos, in a world full of confusion. So, and I'm not here to decipher like who and what religion is right and stuff, but when I pay attention to see how people operate in said religion and so forth, and how they are aggressive towards certain things, I just could not subscribe to it, honestly. And so, it's again, the thing going back to structural discrimination. Like I made a video about that. These are things where no one's going to come along and give me a character that don't look like me and tell me to believe and tell me to accept and not question that. And more so like, seeing how just like how common sense it is to have all these structures in place, but yet a lot of these folks are unfulfilled. They're not happy. Yeah, they go to this building, they go to places, but they don't know the root of where these buildings even came from. I was telling someone, I said, look, you cannot possibly make me believe, being from the South in the area over there, you cannot make me believe in something, and you're not going to make me believe in something where there was a time where they will meet at these so-called churches or these buildings, And literally, and who am I speaking about? The people that wear the white hats, the Ku Klux Klan, literally meet in these places just to go out there and prepare and attack people that are darker. And I'm pretty sure that even if people that wasn't always, because that's not all people that were of a lighter skin or whatever that actually subscribe to that as well. A lot of people were that was on the side of people that were darker. Like, it's not always this people that look like this against this person. It's definitely not like that, because it's hand in hand. Even when people that are darker had their hand in other people that were darker captivity, what y'all call slavery. So again, someone's not going to make me believe in the fact of, because a lot of y'all don't do your research and learn about this shit. And that's just what I'm here to do, expose it, because it's an Aquarian age. It cannot be hidden anymore. It's just the destruction, the greed, and the power hungry people who have unalived people to their way of trying to construct some type of religion. This is why truth is above all said religion, even when it comes to superiority, how people want to use it as if man is above a woman, or even just the fact that all angels are male, or just the fact of how they remove the matriarchal or the feminine aspect from all religion. Like, we don't question this. And so again, the structural discrimination, the structural racism, the structural confusion that's all been exposed. So again, going back to researching, learning this in my hometown, and the library, a lot of stuff is hidden and people don't want to go read and learn about it. But anywho, there were buildings before there were churches that people of darker shade in the South used to build. They built these buildings to educate themselves before they became churches. Religion wasn't not always here, because a lot of people were from different cultures and different demographics, different creeds that were darker, because a lot of people migrated here. Gullah Geechee people from all different these are African tribes, different tribes. There are people that came from all walks of life. This has been going on. And when you learn about even who began burning crosses, and I believe it was, is it Scottish? You have to research it. I feel like it's something that people used to burn crosses first. And I believe it's either connected to Scottish. It's something, Scottish rites, something like that, to where they used to burn the crosses. And I said, that's interesting. So who used to burn crosses in front of churches? And you want me to believe that I should go to something like that? Not to mention, I've spoken about sundown towns. And I've spoken about how religious and so Christian people can be, but yet they have this internalized racism. They do not and don't want to have no parts of dealing with someone darker. And just from my own experience, these are people, I know people personally that are dealing with this because their great grandparents and so forth, they know exactly what they've had their hand in. But people don't tell their grandkids about this. They just, they're Christian, or they go to church. Yeah, y'all go to y'all church, but for one, some of these states that y'all call, whether it's the South, or I remember I was researching this state, Ohio. Ohio was at a time one of the biggest places where the Ku Klux Klan used to gather. And these are the same places where they will have their kids out there. And some of those little kids with those hoodies on are some of those very grandparents that some of y'all like, it's in y'all lineage. And this is how a lot of y'all gain y'all so-called wealth. Y'all, how you gain wealth? Through destroying and killing people. And you think that's not going to be karma, or that's not going to be balanced out. And this is what's happening. So a lot of things I speak about has a lot to do with the fact that when I say repressed emotions and memories, that has a lot to do with a lot of my ancestors who repressed a lot of things. And they were unalive for it when they did try to speak up. These are things that would no longer be ignored. These are things this is the uncomfortable truth that people don't want to accept about their lineage, and then they sit back and act like nothing's going on. But now it's coming to a hedge, and now that they realize all the shit that they've gathered in all of these countries and places that have gathered all these things have come through what? Blood. Have come through greed, have come through destruction. And so, again, going back to the Ohio thing, these are places where you had people, they had their very kids out there. You can research things where they have unalive people, hung them on trees, all these things right beside these courthouses, right beside these places where a lot of these things are old burial sites. You know, I bring these things to awareness because people don't realize, like, a lot of your childhood traumas are not just your own. Your mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers have also experienced things, because not all people that were a lighter shade were accepting of people that were darker being unalive. You know, if you only knew what your barbecues meant. I ain't finna go deep into that, or should I? But anywho, again, when you look at the history, not her story, when the last time you heard her story about grandmothers and stuff? People were threatened, like, if they spoke up, if they were, you know, and then people had to protect their families and so forth. I'm doing this. I mean, I don't see anyone that speaks or just tries to bring forth some type of righteous balance, and then we have what we call righteous anger. And for someone to try to tell me I shouldn't be angry at what the fuck has been going on and what has been continuously going on, and thinking that won't be divine justice, man, and don't see why all of this is crumbling. It's divine justice. It's something higher than all of us. And people want to ignore the fact that they know that blood are on their hands. And I'm not here to say, like, oh, who did this and who that. You know who you are. A lot of these places, again, Ohio and a lot of these places were places where only thing has evolved was people, just because their suits, just because their clothing changed, doesn't mean their hatred has. Their internal hatred for themselves. So when I'm speaking on things, I'm not speaking on a particular race. I'm not getting into that. There's a human race. I'm speaking on the self-hatred at hand. You know, where people are just put in said demographics or put in certain places through the hands of what? Destruction. People have been placed in the hood. People have been scared into things. Fear-mongering. Let's keep it a buck. Do y'all not realize, like, the confidence, not just I've been given, but to not just speak and do these very things? A part of facing these fears, or a part of the Most High sending y'all on missions and, you know, putting you in places where you are so uncomfortable around people who have so much hatred for themselves and so much hatred for whatever it is. And then you're asked to be there, and you're asked to be in that uncomfortable environment, knowing that these places, these corporations and so forth, these towns, villages, are some of the most conflict driven, or hiding so much of their hatred. And eventually, again, it's already exposing themselves. How can people be so proud and talk about the land of the free? Free what? Who's free? There's a difference between liberation and freedom. And so with that is I've accepted the fact of, like, just accepting your gifts, accepting my gifts to not only use my art, but use your voice, use all your gifts to be able to bring forth awareness, justice, liberation for the next generation to come. When I look at the fact of, even at the top it said colorism, like, a lot of things to where I've lived through it. My mother, my father, you know, people that told me about their stories. I was given this vessel, this body, and to pretend like these aren't things that need to be addressed or spoken about. And how much are we going to internalize it? I'm not asking people to do anything. It's just surprises me how when people can research and then even know what their grandparents or certain people were a part of, and people literally don't think that that's the curse that's following your lineage. Did you hear what I just said? Some of us, when you're a generational curse breaker, that doesn't mean you just do the same as other people that came before you. Breaking the generational chain and curse has a lot to do with going against the norm, going against the grain, going against the fact of like, I'm not going to sit back and do the same shit. I'm going to speak up. I'm not going to raise my kids that way. I'm not going to instill in them, the opposite of integrity. How do you think that y'all don't see that curses have followed people through their lineage? And they actually think that they're progressing. When you look at this country is not progressing. When it comes to the collective aspect of that, when you still have people in said positions that has nothing to do with integrity or authenticity, they're not progressing. So how do humanity or how does a country progress? Through fucking honesty, through integrity. And that's the illusion that's been given off when you see certain corporations and people. So when you talk about colorism, how can y'all act like y'all don't see this in the movies? And I don't just mean like it just got to be everyone that's darker. I'm talking about the fact of how the makeup industries, how the movies are depicted in a superiority aspect. Things that are driven off of narcissism, control freaks, things that are honestly, how could I ignore it? Like when I have been in these certain areas or places where the colorism and the fact of like what is beautified and what isn't. That's the main reason how I had to learn from that self-hatred. Who did I learn from to hate myself as a darker person or just even as a human being or just even as a man? Where did I learn it from? And when I look at that in the bigger picture or the totality of it, it didn't just come from society. It also came from the mother that was darker, a grandmother. Women who, when I look at them, they don't embrace their natural beauty. They don't, because they don't feel beautiful inside. So then when I look at the makeup and when I see these industries that are driven off colorism, that are just promoting women that are lighter or women that are a certain size, it's so many things. Again, structural racism, structural discrimination. And my thing is, it's like, where are the people that want to create that change? I mean, I get people that want to, like, I'm for anything that's trying to empower, especially, healing or empowering people. Like when you see a lot of my creations and my art masterpieces, and you see, like I've had things that are either black and white in a sense of color, and then you see something that reflects me. This is because in my world, I can only go off my experience, and I'm going to empower said darker little boys from what I did not see and what I did not experience growing up. So that's from my experience. And if someone don't accept or embrace that, I don't fuck them. I don't care, because they will never know what I've experienced and through the lens of the Creator or the Most High. That's just no different than someone that is another shade or a different culture and so forth. We don't have to agree on everything, but there will be respect, and because that's the thing that, respect and integrity, that's the thing that has been missing in humanity, and people, they're not pushing things when it comes to that. This is encouraging people to face your wounds, face your fears. You have to face your internal world before you can think that the outer world is going to accept you, because not only are they giving off fucking false illusions or manipulation, they're also trying to do the same thing through our kids. And when we look at the root of it, we all have been lied and manipulated through the various societies and corporations and so forth. And now, not only that, because they preyed on our childhood traumas. And so when I look at certain things that have been set in place, I'm like, wow, well, look at the powers that used to be. And so a lot of us now are representations of the powers that be. And that's a bold statement because, again, being a generational curse breaker has a lot to do with going against what was. and seeing the beauty of the transition. What's so fucking amazing about this, let me eat this right quick. What's so amazing about this is that I become so aware of the new age that we're in. You're going to have people that are going to ignore everything about what you do and not realizing that we're transitioning from a painful experience throughout humanity, no matter your color and creed, whatever you believe in. A painful experience where you have women that are a lighter shade, and I got women that are lighter shade. I got kids by women that, that I've had to address the same thing. I got other, people I associate with, and I've been in places where I had to, the divine, like, hold them accountable, let them know. I'm like, okay, who do you date? That ain't none of my business. But at the same moment, why don't you speak about things? It's like we want to interact with people, but why don't we speak about how do y'all want to how do we want to get along? How the fuck are we going to live amongst each other if we don't acknowledge what is going on? It's like, hey, how you doing? And if you guys see, the world has been having this mask like everything's all right. And it's the opposite of that. Everything's beautiful. No, because the internal world, they're fucked up. They're going through a lot. And the world has never taught us about childhood traumas. It never has taught us about being self-aware that your consequences and your belief system that you develop from society and from your mother and father will catch up with you. Then you realize, like, oh my gosh, I have not been honest with myself. Most importantly, these people have not been honest with me. And you know how burdensome that can be? So again, I've had people I associate with, I'm like, okay, how do you know, for a lot of you, you see how the tables is turning. I'm sitting here telling you what your society and your communities that you live in there predominantly, whether light or not. I'm sitting here telling you that there's coming a time where your ass is going to have to get up. Your ass is going to have to probably be called to those very people that you didn't want to have nothing to do with. And then you're going to be able to be forced. Your fears are no different than anyone else. Your fears will have you, they will haunt you till you face them. And I've talked to women that are a lighter shade. And they're blown away because I'm like, okay, yeah, you're living your life until one day what? Your son or daughter decides to talk to someone darker, then you're faced with the fear of what? Because deep down, you don't want to accept that, do you? Because you know your mom and dad or your great grandma and them and so forth, they didn't approve of that. But you would never tell no one that. But you will purposely mask yourself in front of your kids or tell them, like, we don't approve of that. Oh, I've talked to people like that. Same thing. Oh, yeah, let me get on this side. Same thing that go for you women that are darker. I've had people right in my family or people that I know personally. Y'all have so much hatred towards, as if you know this person personally that has put your family in captivity or what y'all call slavery. How long y'all gonna keep holding on to stuff that you don't even know that's true? And then you don't even know the root of that. There are darker people also that have put people in the same loop of, everywhere around the country. This has happened through generations. So with that, and it's like, again, people that are darker, y'all don't even approve of people that are lighter. You wouldn't want your daughter, son, to bring a woman that don't look like you home, because it will reveal your deepest insecurities, because you will feel like a failure. You'll feel like you failed yourself. But you don't, and this goes for both women or men, wherever you are. A lot of y'all got so many deep insecurities, childhood traumas, and so much repressed emotions around things that you have never addressed, have never went to therapy about. And you don't even know why you have this hatred towards other people. You never asked yourself, where did it come from? Where was it rooted in? And a lot of you still ignore the fact that you know that you inherited it generationally. A lot of you have a deep envy and jealous for other women, but yet, and let me speak to the women. How is it that people, some women, not all, that are lighter want to look like this person that are darker? Then you got some women that are darker with their deeper insecurities, subconsciously want to be like other women. And there's a deep envy and hatred that y'all never address. And what I'm speaking about is the hatred of yourself, not to even be yourself. You have a again, colorism society that breeds the fact of women that are lighter. You know this personally, whether you don't know it now, I'm here to address it, that you will promote things that just beautify yourself, but you don't never support women that are darker. You don't, you deep down, you probably, your insecurities, you admire them. Just like, why don't you darker women admire things about women that don't look like you? Because see, the energy that's restoring is what I talk about, the divine feminine and mother, divine mother and divine masculine, feminine and masculinity. Because a lot of this stuff that is rooted in what y'all have towards each other is yourself. Is yourself. A lot of you won't even, there's so many people out here that don't even want to have nothing to do with their grandkids or people just because who someone's dating, just because they look like this, and they will mask it, they will pretend. But they will go back home and never address the elephant in the room, or never look in the mirror and really tell themselves. Yeah. And I've dealt with it on both sides. Same with men. You couldn't ever get me. Like I saw someone, I was like, and I'm gonna tell this to darker women, like, I love everybody. It's beyond y'all skin color, but I'm getting to the root of it. I asked myself this. Would it make sense for me to try to wear a man that don't look like me hair? Would it make sense for me to try to wear or even look like someone that don't look like me? Like, try to market myself after them rather than trying to be my authentic self. Ask yourself that. Because a lot of these things are rooted in your insecurities. Everyone, I've had them. I just hidden them when I was younger. So again, I ask myself, when I look at all these things when it comes to the emotion, the mother wound and the father wound, these are things you don't see, but the visual that I've done with the masterpiece is that it's showing you what I'm healing from and what I'm also walking away from. See, the beauty of this is for you to come back home to yourself. If you sit down with a lot of women and men and y'all sit across and you really talk about some of the stupid ass discussions and stupidity that y'all have been programmed to believe in this belief system, let's call it out for one. I grew up in demographics where right now, let's say this neighborhood I know, that was a neighborhood called, let's say Icemore Lee, right? Shout out to the bricks. I was telling someone, like, just by you being that lighter skin or whatever, like, y'all use the terminology white, and I don't use it. I'm just giving y'all this analogy because it's levels to it. Someone that looks like this. And they really don't even look like this because it's an adjective. But someone of a lighter shade just, come into a predominantly darker, a place that's like 90, 98%. Because you rarely going to see one girl in there that probably talked to a brother. But, I mean, for some people that you just only really see in school, there are people, belief systems that feel like, and this is not everyone, but from what I grew up in and surrounded by, that only people that are darker can do bad. They can do no good. This is children's belief system that they grow up in and believe about themselves. That they only believe people are darker that can only be criminals. That can only be, live there. And when they see someone lighter or something like that come into the neighborhood, they automatically assume that either they're a probation officer, they're DT, which is a detective, or it's a scarcity. This is wow. I'm telling y'all some deep shit that you've never heard of. There's a scarcity in this country around people that are darker and lighter. There's a scarcity. We have insecurities around people. People have really a belief system around that this is how all people are. And in all honesty, y'all, there is a trailer park with people that don't look like me, that look all the same. They are on, whether you want to say drugs, they do the same thing that some people in the hood do. And in reality, it's still the hood. It's just different colored people. It's no difference in when you got people that I know that come from wealthy homes that are darker, or, or just come from a different demographic. And, I've dated women like that. And the insecurities, the childhood wounds, the repressed emotions that come up around not feeling enough dating these women. And the mother wound coming up around that when I'm dating women that are darker, or my shade or whatever, and not really accepting who I am. And there's this overhaul of this over giving aspect to try to fill a void, or externally, like, oh, I gotta get this. I remember being in a relationship like that, like, oh, her father or someone, they live in a big house or whatever, and they had these things, and here I am, like, gotta go back to my neighborhood. And sometimes when I would go back home, she never knew that my lights were off, living with my mom. They didn't ever have to worry about that. And it's wild, because even the belief system around that is that, I would literally try to escape being where I was, because I wanted so much and needed so much to be in something stable. So a lot of things, even when it comes to belief systems, a lot of things are rooted in so much instability, insecurities, and unworthiness, like not feeling stable within ourselves. And it's not our fault. It's just what we have been, what we have developed and what we have been programmed to believe. And even with the mother wound, it's so deep to where, like, not just the worthiness of being in that said relationship at the time, it's also the mother wound of, like, how it connects to and exposes you to the fact of, like, how you have realized how much your mother, a lot of men have been smothered. A lot of them have been emotionally abused and neglected, to where when they are in said relationships and certain things like that they don't know how to verbalize or even express their emotions. And even if they do, it's so impulsive. So, the list goes on for, like, things that I've experienced. But again, what I'm getting at is that when we look at humanity, when we look at a lot of these things, these very things that you see that I have here are the same thing a lot of us, most of humanity, even if they didn't grow up in it, they can connect or relate to. Whether it is still a 2-parent home and so forth. They may progress differently than someone in a single parent home. But this is the thing where I build a bridge to people who don't realize, like, look, when I reflect on where I've come from, man, let me tell you, it took a lot of stability and honesty and integrity to get to where I am. Was I perfect in it? Absolutely not. But I call out things even if it don't make sense to a lot of people. It may seem wild, but the same hatred people have that don't look like them, it's both ways. And I've been a part of it. I've experienced it and see, like, well, why? Why is it like this? I'm not here to say, oh, I got to force the change, but it's more so like, the reason why I feel like a lot of things is caving in and the new age is upon us, it's because we've created it. That's the accountability we don't want to accept and take and take in, is that we created this fucking world and we destroyed it. We've literally, this society, this country is literally self-sabotaging itself. This is exactly what it's doing. This is why so many people are in fear of, these said elections and, all this shit that's going on, because they know that their time is up. The powers that be used to be. You know, they know that their time is up. You know, when we talk about a spiritual warfare, you know, things know it has come to a hedge where this is what the divine had placed on me. It's like, discuss the fact of how the beauty and all this shit, bro. It's like I'm not even mad because I've seen what I have evolved out of in blossoming into. Because I've had the beauty of being around people that are darker, you know, and really seeing all these things, maybe not all, but a lot of these things within them. And then I transitioned to being around people again. Even if, like, let's say I grew up in certain demographics, especially where I was, like, there was religion, but what really baffled me is like, how is it that you have this person that don't look like you on your wall? Why is all this praise and all this stuff to this person? It's just me questioning that. That's just me. Then coming into the awareness of like, not everyone was like that. Then also transitioning to predominantly people that are lighter shade. I'm talking about, it's deep, bro, to where like I went into Walmarts and I'm like, bro, I'm used to going to Walmart where everybody looked like me. So I went to places where I'm just looking like, wow. And it's beyond the color because the people that are, just from the experience, people that are like a lighter shade, they like still in kind of disbelief because most of the time you don't look like them. Or these are conservative towns and villages that have not had people that are darker either for years. You have actual people, y'all, that have never seen someone darker because there is a stigma or a fear around that. There are people that will not allow their kids, daughters or whatever, to be around that. They literally shelter and smother their kids. And it's like it still shocks me to this day, like how to hear people who say they were homeschooled, I mean, completely different than what I've known. And then to see them after 17, 18 years be exposed to humanity or exposed to something, it's like, there's so many different perspectives that people don't even realize, like why people have these belief systems. And a lot of their belief systems, they're coming to the self-realization, even if they do or not, or leave this world in that same destructive or self-abusive or self-sabotaging belief system, and realizing that they've come to the realization or are coming to the realization that when I say the time is up, it's like a lot of what people have built was destructive and through destruction. So the balance in what you give out, that's why I tell you, I teach on universal law. What you put out, you get back. You've created your own destruction. So what you put out returns. So what you harvest is going to be destruction. How do y'all not see that until you realize that a lot of you are generational curse breakers? A lot of people are going to take themselves out. A lot of these societies, these corporations, and all this shit, it's an empire crumbles from the inside out. I always tell y'all this. It's because this hidden knowledge or this hidden shit, there's nothing hidden. That was the illusion. That was the smoke and mirrors, because a lot of the things which you thought was a secret has always been within you. You are the fucking secret. I'm the sauce. It's like you can make something, but I can make something. This is the sauce. Because there can be no other me. Even with my son, there can be no other me. He's just him. I am one of ones. You are one of one. You are the one in your lineage. So the divine was like, pay attention. I put you here and I brought you here to show you that there is childhood traumas. There is repressed memories, emotions. There is abandonment issues. There is self-abuse, mother wounds, father wounds, depression, and everything. No matter what your culture, creed, or anything, there is structural discrimination, especially dealing with women. in most of these religions. This is what makes people dangerous, is because they know this. It's not to say people aren't like leading, but what are you leading them to? Are you leading them to themselves? Are you empowering these women rather than using your ideology or your so-called religion or your structured or organized religion, organized chaos, to bring them back to themselves? Because this is what the awakening is about. What do you think the divine feminine is, the rise of the divine feminine is? It's because the wounded masculine reflects religion. The wounded masculine, you heard me, the wounded masculinity is rooted in religion. And then the wounded femininity also is rooted in that. Because if you have people who are wounded in their masculinity, they're wounded in their femininity because they don't know their power. They don't know who they are. So they are looking for the God outside, or looking for something outside to validate them, to make them feel a sense of wholeness, when they don't understand energy or the balance between femininity and masculinity. We all come from a man and woman. We all come through the wounds of our mothers. So energetically speaking, when we talk about feminine and masculine principles, there are things we receive from our mother that we do not receive from our fathers. There are things that we receive from our fathers that we do not receive from our mothers. Why do you think man and women come together? He has to come together with her. She has to come together with him. So a lot of these things where people are trying to create all this division and all these things has a lot to do with y'all fucking insecurities. Had a lot to do with y'all childhood wounds. Had a lot to do with what I see play out with people. I'm like, everything is literally balancing out. Everything literally is divine order. No matter how and who proclaims to have all this power, none of you are above truth. None of us are above authenticity. None of us are, well, meaning the vibration. No, none of us are above, source. That's what's so funny about all this shit. I get giggles and laugh when I see people do so much to just please, or to just think that they have to bow. That's disgusting. That, like, even with that, it's like, that's the whole idea around people. That's blasphemy, is what some of y'all may call it. To get down and do such things. Y'all don't question this. Y'all don't have your own belief systems. We are moving in from being so unbalanced or imbalanced, whatever you want to call it, to a holistic way. Holistic meaning that you are whole within yourself. And that's what's balancing out. Literally all this destruction, all this shit that's been going on internally with a lot of people. You conflicted with yourself. It's like little kids running around. That's how Source sees it. We're all like little innocent, well, not so much innocent, but little kids running around like trying to figure out this life. That's why when I look at my daughter, when I look at, a child that's real smaller, like a baby, they know why they're here, or they're here to remember. And at the same moment, it's just like, what we don't want to accept, and a lot of our parents, a lot of people that came before us, y'all don't want to take into account how, I don't really like to say failure, but just take accountability for y'all fucking actions. Or even if you want to use the term fail, you fail to realize, you fail to take accountability. You fail to be responsible. The awareness around who it is, and then now we're left to do it. And then you dare try to attack us because now we standing in integrity, we standing in truth, we standing up for something, when you had the opportunity to do the same thing, and now we're choosing not to do it through destruction, through greed, through selfish attachments. And you're wondering why, again, all this justice is coming to all that's been involved with that. No one is exempt. I was telling myself earlier, I said, when I was creating this masterpiece and I was holding my son and I let him hold a paintbrush, and I was like, I'm honored to give my son a paintbrush and not a gun, where we've seen people in the past, we've seen a society and people, this so-called culture influence our kids to go harm other people rather than face their own shit and emotions. We go do shit emotionally, impulsively, rather than teaching that man to face himself, that little boy, like, it's okay to cry. But what you finna do, you finna take all that anger and don't realize that there's consequences to that you're gonna ruin someone else's life, or you're basically gonna bring karma to yourself, and even if it ain't for you, to your lineage. So when I was holding my son and I was creating this, the beauty is that he get to see exactly what his father is healing through, have healed through, and realize and see the beauty in that his gift is making a way for not just me, but for him and for generations to come. Even though he may not verbally say something, the visual of what we see is also how we eat, what we hear. To see the satisfaction and the peace, the joy that comes when I hand him a paintbrush and just hold him up, and just to see if, his little hand can just touch it. For me, it's deeper, because the father wound connects to the fact of, it's nothing against the man that wasn't there. But the man that wasn't there, the man that was there with my mother, and then the men that I did see who were impulsive, who were verbally and physically abusive. And then for me to be here now, presently, to be able to hold my son, and the beauty in that, to see that you are not your past. Your pain is your gain, or your wounds that you went through show that now that you're here, you've been divinely guided and protected for this message. And to hold him and for him to see it brings everything full circle. So why everybody's been distracted and not realizing that a lot of you, even if you haven't been the best to your kids, today you can do it. Today you can just try to be the best version of yourself, because we need not to beat ourselves up for things that we don't even realize that we develop behavior patterns and a belief system from the very people who told us that it's okay to whoop our kids. It's okay to speak to them in certain ways. It's okay to devalue them. And a lot of that shit is your own deepest insecurities. I'm here to hold you accountable. I mean, a lot of this, again, I'm holding you accountable because I hold myself accountable. I haven't not been perfect through it all, because I've had to unlearn even similar patterns where I wanted to realize I had to face my abandonment issues so I don't abandon myself, and then abandon the tribe that was given to me, to be able to see the bigger picture. Just because I didn't see and have a father who was healthy doesn't mean I cannot be one. Because I can. I always tell people, CAN comes before the T. You can, and all things are possible. Same thing for you mothers. Just because you didn't have a healthy mother doesn't mean you can't be a healthy mother for yourself. Because a lot of you had to mother yourself in an unhealthy way just to lead you to a healthy way. Just so you can be healthy for a lineage. So I'm not finna sit here and praise and at all encourage any fucking thing dealing with this wounded ass culture. When it sit here talking about the music and all this stuff promotes little boys doing that, little kids gonna see that shit and hear it, and due to their unhealed traumas or childhood traumas or whatever, their emotions, they don't know how to regulate their emotions. So why would I encourage them to go out there and do that? Because I know the ripple effect it will have on everybody involved, whether that community, the mother, the father, and so forth. So before I even consider or to even think, when I look at spiritual warfare, there are things that along my path that wanted me to get involved with, whether it be drugs, whether it be gangs. There was things I was associated with, but there was always something itching within me like, no, that's not you. And I'm telling this message for all of you out there. You know that ain't you. And once you start to walk in your truth and integrity, and you start to realize like that was never you. That was someone else's belief system. That was society. That was people who they hated themselves, because I always quote James Baldwin. He said, if I love you, I'm going to make you conscious of the things you don't see. And that's why I come and talk about this stuff, because a lot of you aren't conscious aware of what you don't even realize you're doing, and how much it will have a ripple effect on your life. Man, what was that movie I was watching? Was it Tales from the Hood? It was something like that. And that guy that had that scene where he was just gang banging and was out there drive by and murdering all those people, unaliving people, and their kids and stuff. And when he went to prison, that lady had to be an ancestor or something, or a guide to him, because she came in white, and they was doing like this study on him or whatever, and then he was in this chamber like thing, and I guess his dreams or whatever, however the thing was, it was just showing like basically these people that returned to him, and they were like looked like how he was, like how they were shot or murdered, and she was giving him an opportunity to change his life, and the way it happened was like he was fighting for his life, and I believe like during the time where he was about to transition, he realized that there was something more, and he had a decision to like change, and she was telling him like, hey, you have an opportunity to forgive or accept. It was something like that, to make a difference. And when he didn't choose that, he just pretty much like they unalived him, whatever, like in the movie. But it was deep because I saw the message, and I never really paid attention to that when I was younger. But that's the thing people don't realize, is like you gotta realize it has a ripple effect on everybody. Y'all acting like we haven't been a part of a murder culture, an unaliving culture. Like, come on now. It's a lot that goes on. Whether it's substance abuse, like I said, no one's perfect through it all. But we acting like we haven't been a part of, if it ain't a healing society, we've been a part of a wounded society and culture. Promoting woundedness, childhood wounds, childhood traumas, using the music, using all these things. People know they're being used. Sometimes they don't even know like they being used by unseen forces and so forth. Until, for some of them, they come into their awareness when they do have a child. And some of them don't fucking care. You can't expect me to not, like, what is this? What are we promoting, women and men, ladies and gentlemen, like, when it comes to the fact of, like, how are y'all not able to, and I get it, y'all don't hold yourself accountable, so I don't expect you to hold your kids accountable. I don't expect you to share, again, some of y'all, it's not y'all fault, but some of y'all do know exactly what you're doing. And you just don't care. And you wonder why the position that you're in, you're not progressing, or you don't see progression, or you don't see how you can prosper. How do y'all expect that humanity or how you expect humanity or people in this country in a certain place to prosper and progress when it's rotten fruit? It's rotten fruit. That's why they say bad company corrupts good character. And a lot of stuff that people have been a part of are, again, a lot of these corporations, a lot of these things that people are coming to their so-called wealth is what we call, like, it's no other way to look at it. It's through corruption. So a lot of these things, like, again, this masterpiece reflects not just what I have healed and healing through. It's just a lot of things is so, having a son brought the awareness to what I just assumed, like just having a mother wound, but a father wound. We're realizing like you, just as well as any other man, have the opportunity to be better. This is me being better, coming from an abusive household to being an abuser, to learning to master my emotions or channel my emotions. Like, it's still times where I'm angry, I don't even know why. But then I realized, learning how much repressed emotions and memories come up when I realized that I grew up in environments where I was bullied, I was verbally, physically abused and emotionally neglected and stuff like that. And then having to process it, and then having to realize, like, okay, there's going to come a time where therapy may have to be implemented, because simply no one has all the answers. And so I'm not ashamed or feel guilty of that. The beauty of it is that a lot of us do need therapy. And I don't just mean just regular therapy where you see, again, that structured discrimination in a lot of things. A lot of us, this is therapeutic. This is my therapy. If you do feel called to talk to someone and so forth, do it. Do it, because a lot of us need an ear. And a lot of us have grown up in wounded societies where we try to lend an ear to someone, and due to repress whatever they have going on, their own insecurities, that shit goes to the community faster than anything. So I encourage people, and I encourage empowerment, within yourself, to love those versions of yourself that you didn't realize that you hated, or, unknowingly, and then realize how much they will have an effect on others that are around you. And then that will change your inner world, that will change your outer world. You'll start to become at peace and make amends with yourself and those that are involved, whether you feel led to it or not. But I will not encourage the ignorance that has been going on, because I know and seen people suffer from it. I've seen people been affected by it and still do, and still are in denial, and having to accept that, having to grieve over that, because I know that it never change. And even if they don't, that's just motivation and inspires me to still be a bridge for these generations. So that's what I'm encouraging. That's what I'm empowering. There are men out there that needs to see this. There are little boys that will someday don't even realize that what is repressed emotion. That they have this anger and resentment even when they go into sports, even when they go into different environments where they don't realize the anxiety and the fears that they have around, because they only grew up in this demographic, or they never been around this. And a lot of this stuff that even, they sabotage before they can even feel like they can progress, because they were never shown. They were never taught. So a lot of us are here to be a guiding light. Honestly, this shit is not, it's not as easy as it look, trust me. But a lot of us are that guiding light for people that, no matter what you look like, but a lot of us are that guiding light for those younger generations who do not, and someday don't want to play sports, who don't want to do what mama and them say in a sense of their belief system, because that's not the only outlet. These are kids, most of these kids, I guarantee you, have so much repressed memories and emotions around abuse. A lot of them never got the choice to even choose for themselves what it is they want to do. They didn't really have the support around that. I've had to literally, one thing about a man is like create the resources. I had to create. That's what's so beautiful, and why I'm so confident in what I do, is that no matter where I was, I had to go out there. I had to do certain things, and I'm not taking full credit, because there were people that were along my journey. But when it comes to the confidence and the self-esteem that I had to build, and still building and still sharing with the world, man, it's an honor to come before y'all, because every day I have to have the confidence to stand within myself. But it's an honor to speak to you of all cultures and creeds, to invite you into my world, into my universe, because, hey, there still is something that could connect us all. And at the same time, this is why I'm branching out, to expand, to reach people, to connect with people in all walks of life. Because when I look at Source, and I look at Divine Mother and Father, that's what connects us all. When I see the Divine Feminine rising and the Divine Masculine, they had to rise from a wounded place. And so this is the beauty of rising and expanding from a wounded place, but it's the empowerment in the fact of like how he's built, how I'm, but I don't have to hide it. I can move forward knowing like, yes, I'm healing. Yes, I've healed through certain things, but yes, there's still things to do. There's still work to do, or shadow fears to face. And that's still me looking forward to a new life, to a new beginning, and to connecting with, beautiful souls who appreciate, who respect me, who see me. When I look at this country and these environments and so forth, this is not a country that has respected a darker man. This is not a country that has honored a darker man. This is not a country that has appreciated darker people. Even when our own people don't appreciate themselves. And a lot of it's like we're told to do certain things, but in reality, when you look at the resources, there aren't a lot of resources when it comes to where it shows appreciation. We're given a narrative that isn't true. We're given a narrative that, again, these false foundations that are crumbling right now. So that's my message. That's my perspective. And that's my belief system. And that's how I recreate a belief system and stand on integrity. This is not a place that has supported, again, darker men when it comes to the arts, when it comes to anything other than fucking sports or or music, or, you know, promoting things that will pretty much dehumanize little boys that are darker and little girls that are darker, both women, you know, men and women. So what I know, I'm standing on something different. I'm standing on business, and ain't no one gonna come change that. Because, you know, that's the beauty of all of this, is knowing that how um I can honestly say that. And that was one of my greatest fears of getting to this place, is that I've had to face these things. I had to face these challenges. I had to face these things head on, realizing like, wow, as much as I wanted to believe that this was a beautiful place, it's beautiful what I'm going through, because I see the beauty in what I become. But I also see the ugly that other people ignore. I've also seen the neglect when it comes to the support, when it comes to the fact of like um encouraging and supporting and embracing people, especially a man that's darker. And I'm calling it out because it's not always it's just what it has been. That don't mean it's gonna be the same. But these are the thing about being a generational curse breaker. It's like I don't have to be the ones that, like the ones before me, that just sit back and just take it. You know, take it like just being kicked while you're down. Like, no. And this is what I've experienced and felt, even in the country and environments like that. I know the feeling of it seemed like being kicked while you're down. As soon as you try to make some progression, there's always something about your past or something about what you've done or what you did. And all that ain't nothing but deflecting that most people do to avoid their own shit, to face their own deepest insecurities or their own woundings. And so with that being said, I encourage you to face your fears, to face, you know, the things, that you know you need to do, and love yourself, man. Love yourself through it, because a lot of you are being called to remove yourself from, you know, that, not just that location or that demographic, countries, a lot of things that you're basically, your mission is complete. Your karma, you have been clearing karma just to prepare for your new beginning, your new journey ahead. And that will come with people being left behind, because again, they didn't choose integrity. They didn't choose to face their fears. They didn't choose to accept their mission or their purpose. They chose otherwise. And this is why you see a lot of people, what happens with them is that they're not ready to face, you know, their selfish attachments around their belief system. So they'll hold and cling to it until they actually, you know, leave this world, and so be it. But I came to do differently, and so did you. So peace and blessings, and I wish you all well, in love and blessings. Reclaim your power, call your power back to you. And, you know, again, I wish you all peace, blessings, and prosperity, and love and healing. Take care of yourself. Shalom.